Hi everybody, I just thought I'll do this follow-up video to follow up on the assignment briefing that we did for task 3 part B because I felt that some of you were finding it difficult to relate these channels and mediums, digital channels and mediums to your respective organization. So that was brought up even during the discussion as to what are the most appropriate channels and tools that you can use. So if you go back to task 3 part B, it very clearly says critically appraise the effectiveness of available digital channels within the market and evaluate the key technology developments in digital tools that could impact on the organization's corporate reputation. So it has two components. If you look at this task, it has two important components. One is to look at the available channels and tools that are available. And the second component is how each of these channels, tools can have an impact on your corporate reputation, right? So I told you how to categorize the media channels and tools. You can use a framework like PESO. PESO will tell you the main methods that are mediums, own mediums, shared mediums and paid mediums, earned mediums, shared mediums and own mediums. And under each of these mediums, you will find certain tools, certain platforms that are available, right? Or else you can look at a more generic kind of categorization where you go by search engine optimization. If you take search engine optimization as a channel, or the key media, then you can talk about tools like Google Ads, pay-per-click, search engine optimization, organic search engine optimization. Those can be the tools that are available. If you look at social media marketing as a main method of reaching out to customers, then probably you can take Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn as examples of tools, right? So what you got to do is talk about these channels, the tools that are available to you. When you analyze these channels, it's always good to bring about the pros and cons of the channel because it says critically appraise the effectiveness of these channels. So how do you critically appraise? As the discussion that we did on Sunday, some of you asked, what about a B2B organization? How is a B2B organization going to use Facebook, right? So you need to now critically appraise. So just because there is a list of mediums available to you, it doesn't mean that you're going to use all these mediums. For your organization, if you feel that YouTube and LinkedIn is a channel that you need to use, justify it. Talk about the pros and cons, and you can also bring about few developments, key developments that are happening in those channels. Now, I showed you some statistics about each of the channels, right? Facebook, how many subscribers are there, what's the growth like, what's the gender difference, what's the gender split like. So these are the data that you can use to evaluate the channel, right? Look, Facebook is a nice channel to be in. You go with facts and say, this is the number of users that are on Facebook. They're split into male and female. This is the split. This is the growth. Then probably you might say Facebook, even though the size of the audience is large, it's slowly declining, right? The growth actually is on Instagram, and Instagram is a more younger base rather than Facebook. So likewise, that critical evaluation should have all these components, right? Say for an example, if you're marketing your products to a younger audience, Instagram might be a better medium than Facebook because you already have data to support that argument. You can say Instagram audience is becoming more younger, whereas the Facebook audience is becoming older. So that becomes a key point a basis that you can use for your evaluation, right? So evaluation, critically evaluating it, uh, entails you talking about the pros and cons of that particular channel and the tool and the key developments that you see, right? What are the developments that you see? Is it a growing medium? Is it a declining medium? What are the new things that have been added in the platform? So all this can be used to evaluate the effectiveness of the digital channels available. So then the next part is on um, discussing how each of these channels and tools can be used, how these channels can impact your organization's corporate reputation. So I think I showed you an example the other day, Sunday from Udell, how that student has spoken about certain channels and said, look, Facebook can affect our corporate reputation positively. We can use it positively to build corporate reputation. Maybe you can talk about the type of content that you want to share on Facebook and build corporate reputation. But on the other hand, it can also create negative reputation. If say for an example, if a customer receives a bad service, they can always do a video, make it viral, put it on Facebook, and suddenly that video and the bad service experience becomes viral. So that is the approach you need to have when you critically appraise, when you critically evaluate the channels available. Those channels can affect your corporate reputation positively and negatively. It's always good to talk about both these sides, right? So whether you bring in a table and talk about it, whether you do it as an essay, is perfectly up to you. And also remember, I'm reiterating this point once again, just because you have a list of channels and media available, it doesn't mean that you can use everything. If you're a B2B organization, sometimes you might be limited to use Facebook. There can be limitations of using Facebook and Instagram, but you might see a lot of potential on LinkedIn, because you have to understand the usage of LinkedIn by most of us, right, is very limited. We just have a profile page, we have our digital resumes on it, that's it. But there are tools like sales navigation where you can approach your target audience, where you can profile your target audiences and talk to them individually, target them individually with sponsored advertisements. You call it the sales navigation platform. It is only available in the premium category of LinkedIn. So if you actually explore that platform further, you might see a lot of potential. So just don't deep dive into platforms like Facebook and Instagram, but also look at platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, because different companies might see opportunities in those platforms. And one last thing on your task 3 part A, if you're struggling to do the digital strategy. Now I said to have a very high level digital strategy where you talk about the content plan and then maybe the race framework. If you're struggling to do it, I suggest that you hold on to it. You can complete task 3 part C. Now I'll be briefing you on task 3 part C next week. After I do that, you can attempt task 3 part C as well, which will have the detailed strategy, and then maybe you can look at a summarized version of the task 3 part C to come on task 3 part A, right? If you're struggling with it, but if you have a good understanding about the content plan that you need to drive and the overall digital strategy that has to be established in your company, that is more than enough for task 3 part A. I'm reiterating this because some are going into the detail of setting objectives and coming up with a detailed strategy on part A. That is not required by part A. You can keep that detail to part C. Thanks.